Like, wait a minute, I do that in golfing, but you should be doing it in the
Welcome to the November 22nd board meeting. Welcome to the board meeting. Welcome. All right.
You don't have any
Okay,
questions with the racers?
Oh, man. The next meeting date will be December 17th. We're going to have an audit and finance committee meeting at 9. I need a motion to approve the regular minutes of October 22nd. There was a modification in the assigned motion numbers. None of the content was changed. So I need a motion on October 22nd minutes. Okay, Julius, second. Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Mr. Schultz.
Mr. Chairman, starting again with our COVID updates, I did type it in here and I probably didn't save it correctly. There was a small draw in October, around 600,000, a little over. So that brings us right around the 7 million mark used of the CRISA funds. At current time, we've had, I wouldn't say a huge spike, but we've had more activity in the COVID positive and quarantined area. We currently have 12 employees out, 9 bus operators, 3 from the maintenance staff that are either out with COVID positive or they needed to quarantine. October 25th, we had our NIFTA board meeting in advance of the conference. On the 26th to the 25th, Chris Tuff, myself, Jeff Hoff, Brian Green, Josh Gardner spent 3 days at Albany to attend the NIFTA conference and expo. It was good. I think the breakouts were very relevant, especially with some of the projects that we have coming up. There were breakouts on BRT and bike share and ride, on demand. So those are all things that we're looking at. It was good to be able to hear other authorities talk about what they've implemented and what they learned from it and the things to do and not to do. So throughout the month we've had, I didn't want to list them all individually. There's been a lot of activity this month. The end of October and November, we've met on BRT, on demand service, bike and scooter share, third-party administrator for an RFP evaluation, traffic signal prioritization, and the RPM program. So we've had a lot going on. Central Region and Mid-Hudson, we're finishing up that RFP review process. We met last week to interview one of the candidates. Now we just have to go back and make an award. That does not affect us. I was just asked as the CEO here to participate in it. On the 12th, I didn't add this, so these are a couple add-ons. Chris and I went out to the airport. Congressman Katko had a press conference to talk about the money I talked about earlier, the $74 million. There were stakeholders there from a lot of the organizations that are going to benefit from this infrastructure plan. So there was like the Water Authority, Center State CEO, county. So there was a good showing. Took some questions afterwards. He did, and then he asked if there was any questions for anybody behind me. And there were several for Centro. So it was mostly focused on BRT and how can we use this money, and so I had to explain to everybody that it was an additional $19 million and it's capital dollars, and we can't use it to go out to hire operators and things like that. We've got to use it for hard costs. And then this past Saturday, we participated in the Lights On Caravan. That's the Stop DWI caravan that happens this time every year. It's typically led by a central bus. This time they did it a little different. They put the police cars up front because they can stop traffic as they're going through the intersections. So it left here and it went out to Baldwinsville. They pick a different area every year to end. Last year, 2 years ago, with Brewerton. So it ended out in Baldwinsville. We had 2 buses and 2 supervisor cars in it. And then we received proclamation from Onondaga County, the city of Syracuse. So we'll hang this up someplace and it'll be up here if you guys want to take a look.
That's right. That's good.
questions? That's all I've got for you.
Any questions for Brian before he moves on to his senior staff reports?
All right, Christopher.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Just to elaborate on one of Brian's comments regarding the various meetings, on October 29th, the last Friday of October after our board meeting, the week after, we met to present the Q3 RPM program awards. This is the Reaching Productivity Milestones Awards that we've implemented starting April 1st of this year. So this was the actual third quarter of the program, but the second quarter we actually started rolling it out because it started on April 1st. This quarter we awarded $26,850 in productivity bonuses to maintenance employees, operators, of a total $62,900. So unfortunately they left $36,000 on the table for bonuses, but it's being well received. In Q2, we paid out about the same, $26,525. So the price is very consistent as far as what it's costing us to put this program in. But we are seeing an increase in morale. We're seeing a lot more people attend the events on a quarterly basis, a lot of positive feedback and recognition for fellow employees, which I think is really what this program is intended to do, and award those that are going above and beyond. Also during this program, we award the Operator of the Quarter and the Operator or Maintenance Employee of the Quarter awards. So I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate Lilia Timashuk, who is the Operator of the Quarter for Q3, and John Weber Sr., who is the Maintenance Employee of the Quarter for Q3, both recognized as going above and beyond consistently and being a proud member of the Centra team. So if we just take a few minutes to congratulate them. And then the follow-up, I'd like to talk about APTA. So as Brian mentioned, APTA is the American Public Transportation Association, so that is the national chapter for public transportation. They held their annual expo in Orlando this year. It was postponed. It was supposed to be in California last year. It was postponed several times to finally land in Orlando this year. Jeff Hoff, Joe DeGray, and myself attended that. Similar to Brian's point with NIPTA, very good sessions, several on zero emission buses, a lot of information that we are able to gain to help continue our research in which way we want to go towards zero emissions in the future with the state's regulations. We also had some new products and discussions with vendors on their new products, as we haven't been able to see people in person, and we've already actually started showcasing some of these items downstairs for the drivers to test out, and hopefully we can implement some of these products in future bus builds and other technologies to help further improve Centro service. And without any questions, that concludes my report.
Jackie? We'll let you go quick, that way nobody else steals your thunder.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Good morning, everyone. Last month I reported on our recruitment numbers and what HR has been doing, so this month I'm just going to update you. We currently have 11 student drivers that are in the class right now. They are going to be turning in the middle of December. 5 of them are going to be going full-time, and the remainder will be part-time. Our HR department is in the middle of recruiting right now for a class to begin the first week of December. In there they now have 22 candidates that they've recruited for bus operators. 19 of those are in Syracuse, and 3 of those are outer properties, Cuba and Oswego. So hopefully we'll have a really strong class, and in March we'll have them turning in, most of them full-time, hopefully. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Was the full-time of the class you have right now, part-time, was it based on management, or was it based on the drivers?
It's based on the drivers.
Okay.
Years ago, it used to be, when you started here, you went through your training class, and it was 2, 3, 4 years before you could get full-time.
Yes.
Now every class is offered, they just go around the room, who wants full-time?
Yeah.
You know, and it's,
See?
Stop it.
Just say it.
Yes.
I had an opportunity to ride the bus this month with the drivers to see, test out the product. I spoke with several people. I know one named David. I think he's been with the company for about 6 years or something like that, 18 years. And so Jackie, she was with the company for about 1.5 years, and another one, I got his name now, but I sent a report to you and stuff like that. And again, this opportunity is to ride bus. You know, I'm retired, so I can do that. So. And it is an experience to see what they go through, especially like when with the kids and stuff, they're getting out of school and stuff like that. But it was a good experience. I had the opportunity to do that 3 times this month.
Good.
Yeah, and we have our labor relations manager, Steve LaRue. You'll occasionally see him out there. He tries to get out there once a week to ride with the bus operators and see, you know, what they're experiencing and what they're going through. And a lot of them he'll ride on high school or the middle high school, right? High school runs, just to see, you know, what is going on and everything. So.
We're still keeping those high school kids out of the hub, right? Just wondering.
That's,
Attempting.
we are in the process.
Attempting? Well, I knew that
Yeah.
at one point we were separating them from, we kinda had pulling them away from the hub and having different places.
There's a lot more direct service to this.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
They've eliminated a lot of the transfer opportunities, so they don't need the hub.
yeah.
The 11 that you mentioned,
Yes.
well, how large was that class when it started? Is it 20-something?
No, it was not 20-something.
Okay.
It was probably around 13 or 14, if I
Okay.
recall right. So we didn't lose too many during the process, which is good, so hopefully we'll see a good turnout with these 22 that'll be coming in the beginning of December.
Okay.
So,
How many drivers are we still down?
Joe, what's your number?
Oh, 30.
I was gonna say at least
Throw
30.
part-timers in there, probably another 10.
Yeah.
They're about 35 shot.
Yeah, so we're hoping, you know, in March, when we start a new class, we'll get another good recruiting class of 20 or more. That's what we're shooting for.
And we wanna follow that up with another one, and then, because that'll help us to start adding service.
I'll
We-
see,
we
I'll
get-
work out Monty.
All right. We can get back to normal service with, 2 more strong classes like that,
Yeah.
but if we wanna start adding things, we're gonna need some more operators.
Yeah, don't do this now.
He'll do this now.
Any other questions?
Did the Oswego thing help out at all?
We haven't heard yet, so
Okay.
I have not heard anything yet that we've gotten any drivers from that yet. I believe that they're going through the whole CDL, getting their CDLs right now.
Correct, yeah, okay.
So once we get once they get their CDLs, hopefully we'll get, yeah, there was a good number with the Oswego,
Yes, she did a good job with that.
yes. So hopefully we can get maybe 8 or 10 from there, would be nice.
They have another workshop going on, I think. It is 27, right? Down at the, Soul City, I think it's the, supposed to be over another workshop.
Another recruitment, I can ask my recruiter and have her look into it.
Thanks, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Good morning, everyone. We're doing really well. I want to talk a little bit about the maintenance connection program that we're working on. It's the transition from our current AS400 maintenance of buses and vehicles and so on and so forth to a new, more modern web interface application. And quite honestly, we're going through testing, we're going through training, we've rolled it out a little bit to some of the 4 people, and we're getting some real good feedback in that process. They're now looking at trying to parallel work orders from the current system to the new system, running those in parallel. A lot of extra work in being able to do that. That's pretty neat. We got some real good imports this past week. Buildings and Grounds has preventative maintenance programs, which list all the different kinds of tasks, everything else that they do. We imported those. We got the rest from the vehicle side from John Boylan. We got some information from our inventory side, if you will, from Chad Thompson. It's coming together. It's one of those things, it's a slow process, but it's really kind of coming together. Did have one hiccup this past month. We decided to try to set up notifications, and when we set up the notifications, it did pop-ups. So when you logged into the website, a pop-up would come and say, hey, you've got this work order. That was okay, it's a good idea, and we'll probably get back to it, but when there's 4,000 of them, it became a bit of a problem. There's a bug, it's a bug in their system, they haven't identified exactly what it is, of course, they haven't seen it before. We're one of the first ones to identify it, so I thought it was kind of interesting. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I think I'd like to give a little bit of a shout out to a lot of people who participated in this, from Linda's team, Chad and Melissa and Caitlin and the whole group over there. And then also from Jeff's teams with Nate and John and Mike Rice, who's really been taking this by the bull by the horn, if you will. It's a team effort, and to see all these people come together is really kind of neat, so thanks to everyone for that. Also, working on with Human Resources, we're rolling out an e-learning system program. It's a program that's basically web-based to put people through training programs. It will cover a lot of the required training programs that we have to do. Plus, it'll provide other training programs that we can do. So it's really a really neat program. But one of the challenges from the IT side was everybody had to have a domain or central email account. We haven't done that because there's really no need for drivers and all the mechanics to have it. We recently just got the licenses to be able to do that. We'll be rolling that out. But as we roll that out, we will continue to do the cybersecurity stuff. There'll be a multi-factor authentication process that'll happen with that. That's 400 licenses that we're adding to the system. So that'll be quite a little bit of a project for us.
For cost to that, adding a license?
So yes, there was a cost for that, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it was.
22.
I said you would ask.
Sorry.
Don't remember.
22,000.
I think it's around 22,000, yeah. It was a one-time fee to bring us up to the 3-year licenses that we have. There'll be then less than that, quite honestly, going forward, as they do what they call a software assurance licensing. So once you've bought it, but now this is just to continue and support it as it goes forward. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you.
Steve?
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start by giving you guys an update on where we stand with service. On November 8th, we added a significant amount of services we mentioned in our October board meeting. We added some service, increasing frequency on our midday services here in Syracuse. Obviously, back in September, we had to reduce our service levels because of our driver situation. As that has improved, we've been able to add services back. We added some midday service frequency on our busiest routes. We added some early morning service. Instead of starting the day at 6 o'clock, we added some 5 and 5:30 runs in the morning to help people get to and from work. And we resumed service in all the communities that we previously served in Onondaga County. So these are significant additions. Ridership has started to tick up a little bit. We're seeing some benefits of resuming these services. Our ridership levels right now for the month of October, because we were at significant reduced service levels, was down to about 60%. Still above where we were last year, but not where we need to be. So we're moving forward, but it's going to be a slow process. The Syracuse ridership was impacted greatly during the month of October. Cayuga, Oswego, and especially Utica and Rome are performing at better levels. Oneida County is it's down about 40%. Oswego is down about 61%, but a lot of that is student-driven. The service at the college, although it's the same level of service, students aren't riding as much as they were previously. And in Cayuga, it was 4% up over last year, but we're still down about 55, 56% in Cayuga. So we know the ridership's going to struggle for a while until we get through this pandemic. Our social media activity right now is still limited to letting people know where and when buses are running. We're not doing much other than that, and we just need to be informative and give a very straightforward presentation at this point with our social media. As we talked about last month, we have put together, and you should have received in your board packets, a summary of the public comment regarding the commuter services in Auburn that were discontinued due to the pandemic back in August or April of 2020. That service has remained as is for the duration of the pandemic. We've received very little feedback on these services. They were very little used. We had a public hearing last month where nobody attended, or excuse me, one person attended, but nobody offered any public comment. You have a resolution before you that discusses the public comment, the equity analysis that was performed, and a resolution that would discontinue the Auburn 8 Moravia service, the Auburn 38, Auburn Syracuse via Weedsport, Jordan, and Albert service, the Auburn 7 Welch Allen Tessie service, which will be discontinued, but much of that service will be rolled into a new 138 routing that would cover Auburn through Syracuse via Welch Allen and provide service for those workers.
Steve, this is the yellow one.
Yes, yes, the other one, yes.
That's what you gave last month. Told us that last month.
Yeah, this was the public hearing that was held in, it was October.
Yes.
Yes. This would be an official action that would move forward and discontinue these services, and also provide a modified Auburn to Syracuse bus route that is consistent and the same for everybody. So, does anybody have any questions on that? There was a lot of moving parts in the Auburn service.
All right, so let me just, for the record here, the yellow resolution number 2C, we're gonna need action on that, based on that conversation. Any questions on that? Okay, so I need a motion for the resolution to authorize service modifications in Central Cayuga, resolution 2C. Any motion? Okay, Monty, Tina, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, for the record.
That concludes my report. Any questions?
Thanks, Steve. Josh?
Thank you, Bernie. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Today to talk to you about the PESH report we had. Let me go first into the acronym PESH, which is Public Employee Safety and Health. They are a division of the Department of Labor, and they follow the rules of OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Association. Every year, we invite them in here to do an inspection of our properties. We had a representative come in here and asked to look at all of the properties, and including to be every location. Some of the issues they found at the locations, I'll go through some of them. We had some exposed wires, electrical box labeling issues. Body shop had some glass and metal that wasn't stored properly. Lockout tagout. We had lockout tagouts on certain things. There was no names to the person who put it on there. Fire extinguishers not properly mounted. Extension cords not being used properly. They were using them as permanent fixtures and not a temporary situation. We had some damaged plugs, and then Oswego had a sign that wasn't working above the emergency door, and RTC had a labor sign that wasn't posted. With all this being said, it's always good to have a third party come in and inspect, look at it. If we have them come out, we ask them to come out, that's great. They don't find us. If they come out here and find things, they could find us. In addition to that, we always encourage our employees to come to us and say, we have safety concerns, and/or come to us with solutions and say, hey, here's an idea. How do you think we can do this? And we're usually open to their thoughts. We strive to keep our employees safe.
One question, speaking of property, parking lot across the street, that's part of the road.
The J-Lot?
Yeah.
Yes.
That, I noticed this empty, what's gonna happen with that?
Well, we're.
Your head.
Okay.
Barbecues? A lot that could happen with it. So we used to lease that to SUNY. And there's about 260 some parking spots there. And they would use it, we would run a shuttle up to the hill. They came to us back at the end of the summer and said that they don't want to do it anymore. I guess there's more parking. What's that?
The VA, yeah.
So there's more parking up there and they just don't need it.
Might be released to DOB wireless too.
So as we move forward and talk about all these programs, specifically BRT, that's gonna mean the purchase of additional buses. So we might have to build a structure there to house these buses, because they're not gonna fit in our current garage. And we would need between 14 and 16 if you wanna cover, the bus you need for the service along with, having some extra or some, supplemental buses. So we couldn't fit them in the garage, we might have to build us, if we continue to get pushed towards the electrification, that might end up being a substation. I mean, who knows? We might have to build, charging stations over there, so we're gonna hang on to it and, because there's a lot of things coming.
The next thing I have is, Caitlin, myself, and EJ, we all went to a Green New York conference, which they discussed success stories on how to reduce energy, reduce waste. The governor's supporting more solar panels and solar fields, creating flowers to help increase the population of bees and pollination, and low carbon concrete, and installing electric charging stations in rest stops. One thing that was mentioned, Rusty from Rochester, he's one of my counterparts, the vice president of maintenance out there in Rochester. He discussed his process of electrification of 10 electric buses. So he went through the whole process of how it all worked. The one thing that I liked, he says that they do have the range issues. When they put the heater on, they lose 50% of it. If you put a gas or a diesel heater on there, kind of counterproductive, it's hypocritical. You've got a nice clean energy bus, but you're spewing out gas or diesel fumes. So they are researching hydrogen and really looking to something different. Plug Power just came to the neighborhood there for them, so they're looking to go a different route. And he mentioned that it's not just about electrification of buses, it's the zero emissions. Looking for zero emissions. Electrification isn't just the way to go. So it was really nice to hear that there's other options to zero emissions than just electric. If there's no questions, go ahead.
Very informative.
Everyone, Joe's gonna fit his later, and Linda already gave hers.
Okay, moving into our Audit and Finance Committee, this was all discussed in detail. Financial reports ending October 31st, we're in a very good position, which was impressive for this time of the year. Based upon the monies that are coming from the feds, the lack of ridership, blended all together, and we ended up okay through October. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. I need a motion at this time. Okay, Tina. Second, Tony. All in favor? Aye. We also went into detail. We have a nice packet in our folders there on our budget for 22-23 and some forecasting beyond that. Linda and her team put together a pretty good budget presentation. We're looking at a budget for our operating budget. We talked about two budgets here, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 82 million of a proposed 22-23 budget. We balanced that budget without using any reserves or any other monies, which is good. We're conservative, of course, on our revenues, and I think there was different percent budget changes for a lot of the expenses. For example, workers' compensation up 22%, salaries and wages 2%, fuel up 24%. So some of those analytics were interesting to myself based on what's going on right now out there. But we did put together a solid budget, it balanced, and that's important. Motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. I need a motion at this time. Tina, second. Darlene, all in favor? Aye. We also, Tara did a nice job presenting the capital budget. Various projects are planned, from new buses to some facility upgrades that are impacting all the counties within the authority. It looks like there's a prioritization on how things are being done. Some of these capital projects are carryovers from last year. So hopefully this year, everything will be in place, especially on the federal and state level, to move forward to help us give a better service to our riders. A motion was made at that point to bring it to the full board for adoption. At this point, I need a motion. Robert, second. Darlene, all in favor? Aye. Moving Moving into resolutions, resolution 3B, purchase of waiting shelters. Caitlin did a presentation on the waiting shelters. And after canvassing the bids, decision was made for Brasco International to be awarded contract. At this point, I need a motion to move it forward. Tina, second. Neil, all in favor? Chris, welcome Chris, his first time up. Did a nice job with the contract award for minivan and sedan services. Many packets were sent out. Finally, Blue Chip Transportation was awarded for a 5-year term. There was no annual increases on any hourly rates for year two through year 5. So at this point, motion was made to award Blue Chip Transportation. So I need a motion at this point. Tina, second. Robert, all in favor? Aye. And finally, Tara talked about the Renewable Natural Gas Dispensing Program, which seems to be like a revenue generator for ourselves. We're gonna take a look at it for a year. A motion is made to award contract to TrueStar Energy. Then we'll take a look at it the next 4 years on how we're doing, but this is something where I think some possible revenue where maybe would not be there if we didn't take advantage of this. Motion was made to award for TrueStar Energy. At this point, I need a motion. Tina, second. Monty, all in favor? Aye. I think we did it for the finance. Okay. We're moving on to our operations report.
By the way, I have to read this. And it's not a picture book either. Okay, on an annual basis, we are required to submit a system safety plan. And for the new board members, I'll give you a brief history how we got here. For many years, we had one system safety plan, and that was submitted to the state of New York under PTSB, Public Transportation Safety Board. The federal government, in their own minds, determined that they wanted one too. So in 2018, they submitted out a request for all authorities to follow this rule. And so our request back was, can we combine it with our current plan? And both the state and the federal government agreed. So in the process of doing that, at the end of 2020, numerous operations staff and safety folks put this book together. So what you received in your packet this week was the amended changes that are to come for 2021 and 2022. Most of it is pretty standard, changing of vehicle inventory, employee, amount of employees, we have things like that. The two things I highlighted within my report, centralizing our training facility and our training program, which we haven't done. Kevin Perrin, who's now the author of this book, or the continued author, is also our director of training and safety, so he's gonna handle that portion. The other piece, which is our new RPM program, Reaching Productivity Milestones, was also put in here. Chris mentioned that earlier today. So those are really the two biggest changes we're making. This does require a motion from the board to move forward so we can make the changes as the chairman, the CEO, and the deputy CEO need to sign this so we can submit to this.
We don't have to read it first?
You can, I can send you the electronic version.
I'd mail it to you, but
Can't afford it.
Yeah.
So you just have the amended changes, that's what you received. This book stays here, obviously, and we are required to follow what's in here. Very painstaking to put the two together. They did a great job last year. Brian Green, Tim Sinclair, Leo Williams, a couple other folks, Kevin, did a great job in getting us to this point. Now it's just a question of on a yearly basis. So I do need a motion from the board to accept the amendments so we can submit them on a timely basis.
Any questions for Joe? The information was sent out in our board packet. Very thin, so the amendments aren't that, like that, enough. Any other questions for Joe? Else, a motion to move this amendment for our safety plan. Okay, Monty, any questions? Second, Neil, all in favor? Aye.
Okay, very quickly, and I'd be remiss if I don't do this because I'll get a lot of grief if I don't. as Linda mentioned, Melissa's not here today, Melissa Brim, she's out sick. She also happens to be my daughter, for those of you who don't know. But I only bring this up because on that camera right now is my two granddaughters who texted me while I was sitting over there to say they're watching right now. So if I don't bring them up, I'll never hear the end.
Hi!
You just made their day and they got their first civics lesson.
Make sure you ask for donuts. I think they think this is the cartoon channel. All right, great. All right, so at this point, no old or future, but we're gonna need an executive session to discuss personnel-related matter. Need a motion to go into executive session. Robert, second, Tina. All in favor, aye. I'll ask Joe to stay here. And Chris. Oh, that's right. And Jackie. Okay. Very good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.